Welcome to Zeta's weapon tier list for survival runs. Use this tier list with a pinch of salt, because your proficiency in one weapon can overweigh weapons' deficiencies. Let's start with Archer's loadout. So the short bow is a bow that actually doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it shoots quickly. So in a sense you'll be getting a lot of assists instead of kills. So let's put it at B tier. Crossbow, even though it hits harder than the bow, it takes time to reload, and if you do not find a good place to hide while you do it, you'll expose yourself to the enemy. Now javelins is probably my favorite from the Archer's loadout, and the reason is, you guessed it, it's because you can carry a shield when you carry javelins, and shields are OP. Warbow is a bit more powerful bow. Well, basically with it you'll get much more kills and much less assists because it hits like a truck. Anyway, now we're done talking about Archer's loadout. I mean, it's really a shame that I have to go for it because survival with Archer is just not a good gameplay to watch. Hatchet is bad weapon due to its reach and usable only in few classes. So if you have a chance, just pick something else. Okay, let's go to my favorite class, the Vanguard. So immediately the Highland sword is way too bulky as it is. It has okay stabs, but all other movements are really sluggish and anyone can just hit you at the time when you are trying to counter. Executioner axe also very sluggish, similar to Highlander sword, but Highlander sword is probably slightly better. Now the Dane axe is much better than the Executioner axe. The reason is it has better reach, it is quicker and deals additional damage for overheads. It is really a tier S weapon, hands down. Now the Greatsword. I played with this sword in Chivalry 1 and it was the best weapon. I loved it so much, and actually it is here as well. It deals great damage, not as much as Highlander sword, but really a lot of damage. It does not have any bonuses to armor, but still dishes out really incredible, insane damage. For example, an overhead with an Dane axe would be, I don't remember correctly, but around 90 damage, and where this sword, the Great Sword, will also deal 90 damage to a Knight class without even additional perks. That means that it can one-shot an archer, whereas Dane axe cannot. It has great reach and insanely beautiful skin. The additional reach allows to keep enemy at bay. That's why it proudly sits at number 1 as the most versatile weapon for survival runs. For people that have broken their mouse scroll, there is a tier S weapon too, and that is Kriegsmesser. Its unique power comes from faster swings. It can do good overheads and stabs, but the swings are where it excels at. The Maul. It's a great weapon, but it's also clunky and you need momentum to work with it. For Vanguard class, this weapon is good because you can come in, hit and go back in a blink of an eye. All other classes would be just simply too slow to wield it effectively. If by any chance you play as a hero with a Maul, just simply swing heavies and don't block anything. You'll go through anything. War Club is a decent weapon and it gives surprising amount of damage to Knight class, but not really that much to any classes without armor. It's pretty fast, so we'll put it in B tier. Glaive. I really want to like this weapon, but it simply dishes out too little damage. So if you have to choose this over the halberd, take halberd any day. Dagger is relatively okay reach weapon and deals exceptional damage when you hit from the back. It can one-shot a Vanguard with a special attack, if I remember correctly, but only if you wield it as the class which specializes in additional backstab damage. The Ambusher. You can also wield a shield with it. Knife is pretty abysmal weapon. Usually Devastator gets it as a secondary weapon. It's really bad, low reach, but it has one redeeming feature. Basically you can carry shield with it. The club is better than the knife. Definitely has better reach, additional damage to armored targets, and probably the best weapon what archers can have as a secondary. Rapier is not particularly good or bad weapon. You can carry shield, but otherwise it's not really good. Too little damage for slashes. It's okay damage for stabs, but overheads and slashes are terrible. My worst nightmare, the Katars. Basically the issue with this weapon is not its damage or its reach or whatever, it's the fact that you cannot carry shield with it, and at the same time when you hit, enemy will not flinch and continue attacking you. So in a sense, if you have Katars, every enemy is a hero. Shovel is an okay weapon, probably a lower side of the B tier. They both hit well, except that they have low reach and not that good against non-armored people. One-handed mace goes into B tier as well. Nothing fancy about this weapon. Probably better than the club, but still the same basically. Additional damage to armored people You also can carry shields. Also, Morningstar goes there. I mean, its own redeeming feature that it actually gives additional damage with special attack. Same goes for Falchion, except additional damage is not given, but it excels against non-armored opponents. Same for Short Sword, just a sword. Basically, the difference between them is that one is a bit faster, the other has better reach, damage, but it's really inconsequential. One-handed spear. Now, I noticed that people usually like when I do one-handed spear survival runs. And for a good reason. They're quite fun. Enemy has really trouble reacting to all those stabs coming their way, but it also has deficiencies. It has no swings. Basically, if you are in the melee against several opponents, you really struggle to keep them in one line so you can attack one or the other at the same time. So it's a bit more challenging to do survival runs with a one-handed spear than any slash weapons. So that's why it's getting the bottom of the A tier. Two-handed spear is arguably worse. The fact that it has a bit more damage than one-handed spear is basically reduced to 0 when in fact you cannot carry shield and you're not as fast. So basically you have all the deficiencies of spear, so no overheads, no slashes, and then you also have no shield. Halberd is my favorite pole weapon due to two-shotting almost any enemy. Also has great reach, great stabs. It still does not qualify as tier S weapon due to lower than usual reach during swings. Pole hammer. Well, I put it in B tier still, and the reason is that halberd is better and one-handed spear is better. Pole hammer is okay weapon to hold choker points, but it's really bad at slashes. I mean, all pole weapons are quite bad at slashes, pole hammer especially. And it doesn't go through enemies, so a lot of minuses. So that's why it is in B tier. One-handed axe, without a doubt, tier S weapon. I mean, the best secondary armament in the game. It goes through enemies, it deals insane damage, and it has shield. So really all pluses, and except one minus, slightly lower reach than usual. Probably the most popular dueling weapon, the longsword. It's incredibly fast, especially on counters and parries. It lacks some oomph against armored opponents, but it makes up for it with really good stabs and overhead very universal set of moves. War Axe is my second most favorite weapon. It's like a longsword, very versatile, and it deals additional damage to armored opponents. It's not as quick as longsword, but the additional overhead damage makes up for it. Two-handed hammer. It's an okay weapon, not too bad. But it does not stack well against the maul, so if you have to choose one, maul is definitely better. Warhammer is a great weapon. It two-shots a knight and probably other classes as well. Basically a really OP weapon, but the fact that it's primary and not secondary weapon, it falls behind the one-handed axe. Poleaxe is a good weapon. Basically, if you do overheads and stabs, you're golden. Slashes, as for all pole weapons, are not that good, but otherwise, really solid weapon. This is a tough one. The two-handed mace, in my opinion, is actually equal to the poleaxe, except the poleaxe has the ability to go through opponents on normal swings as well, whereas the two-handed mace has better swings. So in my book, they're both good and both equal. I tried to like this weapon, the battle axe, but unfortunately it only excels in close quarters. So even your boom and zoom attacks, where you charge into enemies and then retreat, doesn't work as well because of lack of reach. So it has good damage but really bad reach, so that's why I put it in B tier. Pickaxe probably the best C tier weapon. You can definitely have a shield with it, but it's still not as good as any other one-handed weapons in the list. Quarterstaff. Now this weapon is interesting. It's like when you do stabs you deal no damage. When you do swings your reach is abysmal. But on the other hand, overheads are okay. In my view, a broom is better than quarterstaff. That concludes the list, but I'll tell you a secret. There is a weapon that's actually worse than cutters, and that weapon is a bone club, which you can pick up in Escape from Fallmire map. The reason why it's so bad, there is something wrong with its hitbox. It doesn't hit enemies even if you hit them right in the face. Thank you, and good luck on your survival runs.